Mark here from Rock and Load. This evening I am joined by the one, the only Mr. Adrian Langeveld from South African UK hybrid thrash band Infanteria. The guys are releasing a new album on June 17th called Patriarch, and Adrian has kindly joined me this evening to talk all things thrash. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very good. How about you, Mark?
Super duper. Can't complain whatsoever. Weather is awful here in Ireland, so I'm sure you're having better weather than me.
Not so, but we're supposed to be in winter, but look, I'll take it.
Yeah. I keep forgetting, actually, our seasons are a bit back to front. I always forget that.
Yeah, no, where I'd love to be right now is on the Isle of Man, actually, for about the 6 days of sun that they get for the TT. But
yeah. You like your bikes, do you?
I do, but also I lived and worked on the Rock for a little while, so
okay.
I kind of love the quiet little fairyland place.
I've heard it's lovely. I've never been, but I've heard it's a lovely place.
It is. But yeah, that's good atmosphere right now with everybody having a good party and the bikes and the racing this week. So
yeah, unfortunately, one of the local riders from Northern Ireland passed away. I think it was yesterday.
I heard there's been a couple of
and so
two so far.
Yeah, they were saying it's like since the year 2000, 39 have died on those roads. It's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Well, if you see it, it's nuts. But hey, those guys live for those. They know what they're getting into, I guess. So
absolutely, yeah. Just like you and behind the drums, it's every day. It's a toss of a coin, isn't it?
I know. Why didn't I pick the harmonica or something? Because my lower back doesn't like me.
I'm sure. We'll talk about that. So, tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey with your instrument of choice. Was drums always the one for you?
No, I started with piano, as it tends to do from an early age. Very musical family. Mother, father, brother plays guitar and stuff, but they started me on piano, and I got all the way up to high school. And of course, at that particular age, very impressionable. You start hearing rock music, metal music, and you don't want to sight read and do all the theory stuff anymore. And you just say, I'm not doing this anymore. I want to play drums. That doesn't require any learning and charting, and little did I know, and then it bit me. And then ever since, I've just been with the drums. So it really is special. And I still dabble every now and again on the keys, but nowhere near as much as I should.
Yeah. Do you think anything translated across from the discipline or learning the piano to when you started the drums?
I think so. I mean, there are good elements of phrasing and things like that, especially with songwriting. That you kind of consider where the riffs are coming from, or kind of what sort of musical idea Chris, for instance, our guitarist, would be trying to communicate. And then based on that, you kind of look at it holistically. Like, how would I maybe do this if I was doing this accompaniment to this on the song, and how can I translate that to the drums? So it works out like that sometimes.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it does give you just an overall sense, and also a good appreciation. I think in general for songwriting and music, because I mean everything can basically be done on a piano. So I've seen loads of like tribute to like Iron Maiden done completely on the keys, and it's with songwriting. It's awesome. So I think in this sense, it has helped with drumming for sure.
Yeah. And did you get lessons when you moved to the drums, or did you just take it on sort of?
I did a couple, and then I don't know. I'm lazy. I was just like, nope, I'm going to just do it my way. I probably should put my foot down now and actually learn how to chart in case somebody phones me up. Because the worst part is, if a mate phones up and says, listen, I need a drummer for a gig. A drummer busted his leg. Can you do these? I'm like, if I know the song, sure. Otherwise, I have to play it by ear and get it in there. But they say, but we don't have time for that. Can't I just give you the notation? I'm like, sorry, pal. I can't sight read. So I probably should put that on my get it done list very soon.
Yeah, that was probably a pandemic thing that you should have done over the pandemic.
True.
But hindsight's a wonderful thing.
I know. It's just the problem is, like those Udemy. Have you ever seen that meme with the Udemy courses when there's a picture of a kid taking little bites out of apples, and behind him there's a whole pile of apples with one little bite out of it? Doing your online courses, that's kind of what it was like. You start one thing, you never really finish it, and
yeah. Well, I was speaking with another drummer recently. It was Mike Mallion of Monuments. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so Mike was just telling me that in 2015 he had a really bad injury, which was drum related because lack of discipline, really, I suppose, maybe as a young drummer, and not learning certain aspects of sort of how to look after yourself and how to maybe sit properly, stuff like that there. So I was just wondering, as you're talking about the self-taught aspect, have you experienced any issues or maybe thought about the likes of that there in relation to the longevity of what you're doing?
Yeah, a couple of things actually. Just playing wise, I guess it's been since I was 15 years old. So it's been, 25 years of playing.
Yeah.
I wish I'd realized like I don't have to put my entire body into it all the time. I mean, not everybody can be Eloy from Sepultura. I mean, he's an absolute monster, but I can feel now, like in my wrists and in my knees, things like that, where I probably could have taken better care and better application of, I guess, physics and ergonomics. Because that over time, I'm like, I'm going to have a lot of joint damage later, I think.
Yeah.
And then the other big part was with certain techniques that I use, especially on the bass drums. I do afterwards, couple of sessions, my lower back kills me, and it's apparently a thing with the way I use the technique, just to get higher speeds on the bass drums. It's actually, I'll end up leaning forward and then putting a lot of pressure on my lower back over here, and that's not good. And I have to do loads of stretches and things afterwards to try and kind of correct it and have a good warm up beforehand. Also, just going in cold is the other thing. Is I never really took warming up seriously. I'd always go in cold, and that never ever really served me well, but I just kept doing it for some reason. So you just push through it. So that's another thing that I've had to adjust. So I do warm up now, because then it helps just lower the chances of potential injury, because it is quite physical, especially if you're in a thrash band. You throw yourself into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Paul Bostaph, he had elbow problems at one stage with Slayer. Lars, I know Lars has like a slight shoulder issue because of the way he particularly plays, with his hi-hats so set up so crazily. And so yeah, I have had some, and now I'm at that age where I kind of, oh, now I know better, and now I do it. But I just wish I'd known this 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? But as you say, it's quite a physical instrument to play, and if you throw yourself into it, as you say, physically, then you're going to have repercussions off the back of it. Mike was saying that, I think in the past couple of years post injury, that he really has reassessed how he plays the drums and has a far different approach now. And where he would have said it would have thought him, he would have felt it sort of kicking, like he used an analogy of bouncing a basketball and that control element. Whereas
very much so.
Yeah. And it just makes an awful lot of sense when you think about it. But I suppose an awful lot of young drummers are so enthusiastic, they just want to beat those things to death.
It is. And even interestingly, I don't know if you know Kerem Lechner. Krim, he plays for Septic Flesh, and he's filled in with Decapit. Now he's got that particular technique where you watch how he swivels his legs. It looks like he's doing this sort of wet noodle motion, and I've tried to get that technique right, but it just, my knees hurt like crazy when I do it. I'm like, that cannot be good for you, but I guess it works for him somehow, but it's quite painful for me. So there's like no way, and people use that technique a lot, and just nope.
It's almost like trying to train an old dog with new tricks. You know, sometimes you get set in your ways, and you probably settle into how you play your instrument. Same with myself with the guitar, trying to maybe take on a classical approach or something to how they approach picking and fretboards. It could just maybe like beating your head off a wall, I suppose.
Yeah, I just can't imagine, like, if you're a standard 6-string player and switching to like an 8-string or whatever. It's like playing an ironing board. It's got to be. It's so thick for the neck, and getting your hands into position. It's got to. I mean, with the proper time and practice, but it's got to be difficult. I mean, I kind of understand why Metallica slowed down afterwards, because Lars was like, well, probably I've had enough of this. Let's just take it a little easy, you know?
Yeah. And so when you started getting into the drums, then, like, what sort of music was catching your eye, and what were you trying to replicate at that stage?
At my earliest stages, it was probably because I grew up in a very, very religious home, which was rock music wasn't really played, and I had to
explains why you ran towards the metal.
I had to kind of, right. So I had to very sneakily kind of get hold of things and listen to things in the beginning. So guys at school would bring their Guns N' Roses tapes, and then grunge stuff, like Nirvana and that kind of thing. And then somebody played me Metallica, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And kind of from there, it just progressively got more. So that was what kind of got me into it. And then I wanted to be able to play along to these things. And that's kind of, there was this beaten up old drum set sitting inside the music room at school. Only one or two kids actually played. So every break time, I'd be down there in the music block, sitting there playing the drums as often as I could to these tapes. And it just really bit into me. And that was probably around about 14, 15 years old.
Very good. Everybody was like, where's Adrian? He's down there beating himself off.
Well, it's wow. I suppose. Yeah. Hey, I was having a good time either way,
Yeah, well, that's it. We all go through it. So I'm curious about the drums as an instrument, because I was watching a video the other day, and there were some things that stood out that I never really thought about. I never really knew about drums. It was John Mayer's drummer, a guy who worked with John Mayer, and a bass player who played with him as part of his live touring musicians. And they were talking about approaches to certain songs. And one of the guys touched on the fact that you can tune drums up and down, which I never really realized.
Yeah, you can have certain intervals, like you can have your different tones, so that you and you can tune them to, I guess, as close as the approximation of notes, to kind of match with what you're playing.
So is there a standard then? You starts off with a standard?
I guess it's kind of, because your sizes are common sizes are generally sort of 10, 12, 14, 16. So you can kind of go nice and evenly between those, where you have like your tone, slightly lower tone, slightly lower tone, slightly lower tone, evenly spaced them. The problem comes in where you have the sort of rock kit configuration, and you've got that sort of 10, 12, 13, 14, and then it kind of throws everything out. And for some reason, tuning a 13-inch rack tom always is difficult to get the sound just right. For some reason, it's a lot easier to just go, with the two-step intervals. So yeah, it is totally like, again, it could be your preference with how you like your tuning, but yeah, it is totally possible to get, especially if you've got a good, I suppose, knowledge of theory, and knowing what sort of keys that most of your repertoire is going to be in for the artist you're playing for. You can probably then go, okay, well, I can set this thing up to kind of cater for as many of these songs as possible, and then make it sort of sound better, especially for when you're using it for proper phrasing and enhancing the song. So
yeah, because he was mentioning his drum tech, for example, would jump on for a particular song and give him then a new snare drum, because that's what it was recorded with, or something along those lines. So just interesting to realize that there's so many nuances that could be introduced.
There is. Well. I mean, guys, they use side snares and things like that as well. So you'll find that they'll have something that's slightly deeper and slightly bassier and fatter for certain songs, or to get or very tight, small ones to get that nice firecracker sound out of it. So for great effect. So, you want to, because guys really want to reproduce, and these days, I guess, reproduce as much as they can in the live show what people are hearing on an album. So it really is nice when they can manage to do that, because it just gives the audience a better experience. And then there's a couple of ways to do it. I do like to use electronics where I can, so I'll use triggers and things like that if I can, if I need this different snare sound or something else, then great. I don't have to worry about carrying a whole second snare drum, getting it on stage. So I can go, well, I've got a trigger, I can just hit that and then sample the snare sound that I need for that particular part or whatever. So that definitely is something that is very common now with doing that. So
yeah. And tell me, for example, as a young musician, then trying to learn your way around drums and the instrument, as you can see behind me, I have like a collection of guitars that comes over years. As a young guitarist, Jesus, the mistakes that I made were horrific. Buying the biggest piece of crap, learning that mistake, that obviously it's worth investing in a decent instrument, but even like amps and everything else, my God, the mistakes I made over the years. So what was it like for you as a young drummer trying to navigate all of that as well?
That was kind of tough. especially when you want cymbals, just because of the price, you know, the pricing factor involved. So also made a few mistakes of trying to get, you know, thinking, oh, well, I'll try cheap cymbals and it'll get me by. And, you know, after a few shows, and you realize this sounds terrible. It doesn't cut through the music or the walls of guitars. So then you got to go, oh, I need cymbals which will actually do better. But, oh, I need to buy these top end ones in order to cut through the walls of guitars. And I don't have that kind of money, you know. And then you go, well, I can afford one, but I need a whole set. So you got to slowly get one at a time in order to, and by the time you've sort of completed your full set, you go, oh, damn, you know, the first one's now starting to crack. You got to kind of start from the beginning again. But that was one of the biggest hurdles, I think, is just, especially, I guess, because it's a mineral and bronze is expensive. And then I started out luckily with like a very basic element drum set. So now I'm lucky in that I have the endorsements and things like that, which definitely help with getting higher end kits and not having to worry about completely breaking the bank. But initially it was, you know, I started out with the cheap stuff, but I guess there's no real sense to going really expensive when, who knows, I might have decided at age 20 I don't like this anymore. And then you know, you've spent a whole bunch of money on this and it's not going any further. So that's like with guitars or amps, cymbals with a big learning curve.
For sure. And out of curiosity then, as far as the completed instrument around you, that how did you decide, or when did you decide that you had enough? Because I always look at some drum players have, Jesus, they're surrounded like a wall of drums around them, and then you have
the cage,
or somebody like, you know, Extreme's drummer. Remember back in the 90s, he had like just 3 pieces.
The top and well, the thing is, it's so funny because the modern way of doing it is, it's very much gone that way again, where the sort of 80s excess is, you know, it's one or two guys still do it. But I mean, I feel for their poor drum techs, but it looks great, but I just can't imagine packing that up. So a lot of the time now, the guys have switched back to 3 and 4 piece kits, just, you know, just Ringo style the thing. It's simple. So I luckily have sort of every format. So I've got my cage style huge thing if I have a nice big showcase, or it's an easy small a local show where, okay, I can do this because of the transport situation with the kit. If I get backline supplied, it's just generally far easier to have just a 6-piece drum kit or even a 5-piece. I'll play a 4-piece if I have to. Luckily I'm okay with scaling it down. You know, I'll make it work. But personally, I have kits which then sort of fit most situations. So I can go and play a chilled sort of 3-4 piece drum set show, and then have one where I've got like bass drums everywhere and toms everywhere and cymbals all over the place, and it looks like a spaceship. So
and does that throw you off at all, or do you have to think again when you're in a situation either with less or more?
I do sometimes. I'll tell you an interesting story. Like when I think I was probably around about 2021, we had the Haunted over in South Africa for their tour. And I remember we used all the same kit and the Haunted's drummer at the time. He had a massive setup, and he was quite tall as well. And we weren't allowed to adjust anything. Everything had to kind of stay where it was. So here's me, you know, nice and short thing, little T-Rex arms trying to get to these things, and because I'd only played on that point up until then on like a 4 or 5 piece drum set, there were all these temptations here for me to play on, and I'm like, you probably shouldn't, because you're going to screw up the song, you know. But and every now and again you just kind of, oh, I'll just do it, you know, and and I was doing that, and it made it very difficult to set up. So kind of after that, I would kind of resign myself to going, listen, it's fun. If it's easier to go from a massive thing to a smaller thing than the other way around. I found, because it just, you're not used to it. So that is one place where it got very, very weird adjusting. But then after that point, I'm comfortable now switching between the two, because then I know I can already tell myself, no, you've done this before and you've screwed it up. Stick to the plan, you know.
I know the temptation is always too much, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like, I guess if somebody hands you an 8-string or whatever, and you're on stage and you've been playing, you know, or 6-string bass, and your bass player is like, nope, You only need 4. Stay away from the rest, you know.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. My brother made a similar mistake one time. There was a blues artist who used to play in Belfast regularly, and my brother played guitar and he thought he was great and said to the guy, let me get up on stage and play a song. And the guy was introduced him and thought it was brilliant. But my brother plays a Charvel with 24 frets and a Floyd Rose. And this guy played a vintage Strat. So and with 13 gauge strings as well. So my brother gets up and goes to the solo, can't even bend a string.
Iron fingers.
Crashed and burned. So that was one of the highlights of my teen years anyway, watching him.
Well, it's good that you learned from his mistake.
Oh yeah, definitely. Don't volunteer to play live in a gig. Yeah, without bringing your own instrument for sure. So tell me about your journey then with Infanteria. When did you hook up with them?
Well, with Infanteria, I landed up actually teching for them in the first place, so being drum tech, because Chris's younger brother Rob was the original drummer.
Okay.
And then he was also incidentally a pilot, so he got a job offer to go fly tourists around Indonesia, and so then I came in. I'd known the guys for a couple of years already. We'd done some other projects. Chris and I had. We did a little Slayer tribute after Jeff Hanneman passed away. So, you know, just for the local bands here, we got local musicians together. So I'd played with him before and kind of known what their temperament's like, and they're a great bunch of dudes. And from there, I was teching for them at when they opened for Trivium and Killswitch Engage. Okay. And then at the Ramfest here. So then after that, we got the news that Rob was leaving, and they said, hey, well, the chair is open. Would you like to come? And I said, yes, please, because thrash has always been very, very close to my heart. So I guess it's kind of what I learned to play on, you know, Justice for All, Master of Puppets. You get, you know, that's where I emulated and tried to do all that kind of stuff. So immediately I said yes. And then since, scary how quickly time has gone, but yeah, ever since around about 2014, I've been with the band. So
yeah,
and then well, now the second album later.
Yeah, I was going to say it was when Serpents Conquer? Is that the album you first joined on?
Yeah, that's when I joined in at that point.
And
it was very loose.
Rob had written the drums for that album, had he?
Pretty much. There were all the ideas were there, but they weren't sort of set in stone. So when Chris he put a timeline down, and he said, look, we're sticking to this, like no matter come hell or high water. So I had to kind of climb in very quickly, and a lot of the songs I didn't really know and I didn't really like at the time either. I was like, I really don't like this. One of the songs on there, The Arrow, I still afterwards I was like, okay, the song is great. I don't know why I didn't hear it in the first place, but I struggled on the day because when we recorded, because I'd kind of gone in very much without a plan. It was very loose, very fast, and very organic, which is nice because the ideas that I tried, Chris would be there with the producer kind of saying, nope, yeah, no, don't do that again. Oh, I like that, but try this. So there was a lot of good back and forth for that during the day, but it was also very, very, very frustrating because I was so on the spot. So because like I'm using a bit of Rob's ideas, but I still didn't really have a solid battle plan going in. Yeah. So we're lucky we got away with that one, and it came out great. You know, compared to what it was. But this time around, I had a hand in the songwriting process from the beginning. So I was able to kind of build from the ground up, which was a totally different experience because I felt very comfortable walking in and knowing, okay, I know my parts.
Yeah. And just going back and talking about thrash music in general and drumming. So what specifically do you have to bring as a thrash drummer compared to, say, to somebody who's doing the rock thing? What's the other elements you have to add in?
I think there's just this, it's not necessarily technicality because you can be quite all over the place. What you really need to just capture, I think, with the essence of the thrash stuff is the energy. I think that is a big part of it because you can feel it and hear it in the playing. There's probably guys who technical wizards, like let's say in the metal scene, Gene Hoglan. The guy's a master. He's played for everybody, and I don't fault him. But it's so funny if I had to put Gene Hoglan in Slayer, it wouldn't be that train derailing sort of energy that you get from putting on a Slayer album. Yeah. Whereas Lombardo has that I don't know what it is, that that you can feel that electricity when he's playing. It's even in the bands which they've now played Testament with the Gathering album. I mean, I think that album is 2001. That album is over cheap as 2001. That's scary. Where he came in and he played drums on that album, and I was just, whoa, this is intense, because you can feel that crazy energy in there. And so I think a lot of it is not necessarily down to technical prowess. There's got to just be something that's got that little bit of magic in there that gives you that energy.
Yeah. And the recording,
so I think that has a big part to deal with it, and how you bounce that off your bandmates especially when you're recording.
Yeah. And the recording process for drums, obviously, with large kits, for example, like how many mics do you tend to use for when you're recording your drum kit?
Okay, so here's where it's going to get controversial. The last 2 albums that I've done, I've tracked them with my e-kit, just because it doesn't cost me in studio time. I don't have to worry about changing out heads between every song. Being an independent band, we don't really have a lot of money going around to do that kind of thing. And then just the cost of a studio that has a good room where I can do that, are well out of my sort of price range that I can do this in. So what we have done is with our producer, because everything's digital now, right? I mean, COVID has just made it even more apparent with people now. Fine, I can have all these plugins, all the neural DSP stuff for the guitarists. I mean, you got to, it's difficult everybody to have a range of stacks and heads behind you where you can go, okay, I will plug into the 5150 today, and then I will track with whatever tomorrow. So we don't really have that luxury. So what I didn't do was program the drums. So I physically played them, and the producer can go, okay, cool, I dig that, I don't like that, redo that, that wasn't tight enough. So I did physically play it. And then what we'd done is, prior to that, I'd already kind of crafted my samples, so that like for the drum sound that I was aiming to get, so that I kind of we had a good idea in mind of what we wanted it to kind of sound like. So we kind of worked towards getting it there. And then when I came in and tracked, it was nice because I could kind of hear almost what the final is going to sound like. So that gave a good idea of what it would be. So yes, I did use my e-kit, but I did play it myself. I'd love to have the opportunity to do a full kit, and I haven't for a while with mics in a studio. It's just, we got to kind of work with what we work with, and the cost in mind. I mean, there's the pro guys do it too. I mean, I can hire Dirk Verburen from his house right now, but he'll do it on his e-kit and send it to you, and it's and the technology's gotten so good that whether or not he's done it in Abbey Road studio or he's done it in his bathroom, it's I'm going to get good sound out of it. So
yeah. And then are you able to, because it's digital, when you're producing and mastering and stuff, you're able to expand on that sound and make it as big or as tight as you want to?
Yeah, well, that's producer Heinrich. That was his job. That also kind of what was a big delay in having our album out, is that he, towards the tail end of our lockdown here, he was making arrangements to emigrate to Canada. And so he'd rushed and gotten the album ready and done. And then kind of we went to a nice studio, like full state-of-the-art production studio, put it on the speakers so he could check everything. And immediately his face was just, this is not good enough. That just doesn't sound like I wanted to, because he was in the process of shifting his studio and everything. So his conditions weren't great for him to mix it. So then he said, just guys, hang on a bit more. Once he'd relocated, reset up his studio and had it properly treated and everything, then sonically he really got it to sound how I imagined it to sound. And then when he kind of sent those, he said, okay, here's the final masters, guys, I think we've got it. And then listened to it and just absolutely blown away. So the job he's done.
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing a review the other day for the Tedeschi Trucks band, 12-piece band, and obviously all this time and effort and love is put into by 12 musicians recording all this stuff. And I was just thinking to myself, 99% of the people who are going to actually play this can be playing it through iPhone speakers and maybe £10 Bluetooth speakers. it's a labor of love what you guys do, and then what Heinrich is putting into recording and producing and mastering a fantastic album to create it as big as we can. But the reality is, you have no control over what people are.
I know, and that's just the reality. But at least we know it sounds good. At least for us, the biggest thing for us is the car test. As long as it sounds great in the car stereo,
yeah.
That is because I know if somebody's commuting and they've got it in the car and they're turning it up loud and it doesn't sound like hot garbage, job done.
It's true though. You've got to run it through all the things that people will be listening to, and then if you know it in the car, cranked, sitting in traffic, windows up, windows down.
We did it all. I tried all my mates' different cars. So I got my mate who's got this fantastic system, and he's got one of those Audi S6 with a great custom system in there where you can do all this stuff. Played it in there, then I played it in sort of the VW Golf and saw what the system was like, and then I tried in the Toyota Corolla and all these different systems, and just to think, okay, it's good enough to work across all to get a good sound out of it. It's just
tell Heinrich we can sign off at it now.
That's exactly pretty much all. Exactly as I said, guys, I've tested in all these systems. I tried on different speakers, and then the other thing is. People I'm not sure how many people know, but the streaming services, they compress the stuff, they compress it to death. And as far as I understand, Tidal is the one that does the sort of absolute raw WAV files where you get the sort of maximum basically master quality files. And I'm not an audiophile, but from one of the people that told me, is like, you can hear the difference. I'm like, oh, well, I'm just so used to Apple Music and Spotify and everything else.
I know, but
that's how it is.
I sort of wonder as well. People say to me, as you get older, then you lose a little element of your ability to hear those nuances anyway. Frequencies and stuff like that. So what can you do? It's out of our hands.
Just we know that we've done our best to kind of give a quality product in terms of the sonic execution, and that's all we can kind of really say. It's not going to be injustice for all. It's no base.
Well, it might be, because Injustice for All is quite an old album. So you never know. The recording quality in digital these days, it's a vast improvement.
It is.
Tell me about recording of drums itself from your point of view, personal point of view. Do you enjoy that pressure of trying to record a song? That must be a tough thing, doing drums.
I struggle. As soon as that red light comes on, it's that. I mean, I know this thing, I can do it, and the red light comes on, and it's just, what am I doing? And then the self-doubt creeps in, and then and then you sit there going like, why? Well, like I'm not good enough. I can't do this. And then eventually, like at least having good bandmates will turn around and you say, listen, stop whining, just pull yourself together and get it done. You've got this, Just,
your hands just don't feel like yours.
It is. It's so strange. I don't know what it is about that. It's like playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or whatever it is. You're rattling off, you're nailing the questions at home. As soon as that studio's light is on you or you're playing for the actual money, it's just your brain just turns to cheese. So it's the same sort of thing. So I get very, very frustrated with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I far prefer playing live to like feeling that energy to an audience. Like studios, I'm not sure how many people do like it, but I don't find it a comfortable. It's necessary, but I don't find it a comfortable experience.
Yeah,
sure. It is nice when you know at the end, okay, I nailed that and I got it. That is a good feeling. But it's initially going in there. It's just it really gets under my skin. But then once I'm loose and I'm starting to locked in and it's feeling a bit better, then it's not so bad.
I'm sure. I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I'm sure, though, equally, you must have great respect for musicians like who do studio session work. Those guys are so disciplined and so on the ball that it's a different level again, isn't it?
I know it is. And at least in our local industry here in Cape Town, I know quite a few of the guys, of the full-on professional full-time guys who get the calls, and that they're always, oh, we need you for a show, and then they're chanting the stuff on the plane, able to go in, oh, we need you in the studio, and you're going to phone them, they're going to go in, they're going to have the charts, they're going to go in, they're going to play it, it's only going to take an hour, and then they're going to leave. And then you hear guys like what's his name? I forget his name. He's one of the most popular drummers that everybody uses him, like Kenny Aronoff and studio guys. What's his name? My brain is funny now. I know he plays for Sting. Who is he now? Plays for Sting, Danny Elfman, all those dudes. The names on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I know.
Josh, is it? No, it's not. I'll
It'll come to
forget. But those guys, like it's amazing to know that they can go in there and just deliver so instantly and quickly. But I guess that's why, at least to studios where money is being spent, they are, they're absolutely worth their weight in gold, because it means, at least financially, from the artist or the label or whatever it happens to be, if that's still using that model, that's going to cost you less to get a really, really good execution.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I have great respect for it. It'll take me a while before I'm at that level.
And how did you find then? You were saying about the new album, you were involved from the start, so that must have been a more enjoyable experience as well for you.
It was, because I could kind of see how Chris's brain works when he writes, and we threw a lot of ideas around and we jammed, and it was nice because it was at its sort of own pace, whereas the previous experience with Where Serpents Conquer was all very much, we have this timeline and we need to get it all done. And so when I was starting to hear the tracks from Chris and that kind of thing, and the scratch stuff and the ideas and the previous drum ideas, was all very, very rushed. Whereas this, we could just take our time, we could work over things until it felt good. And then we could say, okay, cool, that's something we can definitely use, or, commit to. This is what we want to record.
Yeah.
So I found the process a lot nicer, and because I could plan. And then when I felt comfortable with playing parts and things, I could go, okay, well, it's a lot simpler than Where Serpents Conquer, because I was on the day and I was throwing ideas and things out there. If you listen to the two side by side, just from a drumming perspective, you hear I'm a lot busier on that album than I am on this one. I'm a little bit more relaxed. I'm not as all over the place, but I'm just maintaining on keeping it moving, which felt comfortable and with how the songs were going. So definitely was a nice process to start with Chris from there.
Yeah, because I'm sure, as I've talked to other guys, different instruments and stuff, and sometimes it's about letting instruments breathe in a song as well, not just about filling all those spaces all the time. So you have to sort of, you maybe more control over the discipline and the layout of the song, where you can actually give, I say, the guitars their space, and then the bass or drums yourself, you can plan around that more.
Absolutely, because we have such nice soft passages in between here, we've got really nice bits of calm, where the vocals have to kind of do its thing and soar, and giving it space. You're seeing it a lot more in modern metal productions, where you have that sort of ethereal, sort of low sound, like with the synths and the keys, and just the nice vocals soaring over the top. That is very much like what we wanted to have here. So there is the space to let those things shine and really give you the atmosphere that we want in the song. So absolutely, to what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's how we did that.
Yeah, and you were writing the songs, I believe, from 2017. You started sort of working on new material back then, but obviously the pandemic and all kicks in and interrupts everything for you.
A whole bunch of things kicked in. Yeah, we took our time. I mean, we were hoping to kind of get it all finished 2019. So we we're like, 4 years isn't too bad. And then kind of at the end of that period, then Chris having to make his move to Manchester. And
so what was that about? How come Chris went back to Manchester?
Work. Just, okay. Because we all still have day jobs. So he was teaching. He's a teacher. So okay. He got a placement at a school in Manchester, where he's was where we could get the pandemic kicking in. It was stressful, with wanting to get work. So that was one of the places where you could do it. Where a lot of our friends who were in hospitality and entertainment and everything else were, left sort of dead in the water. It was a move that he could kind of see coming, and he had to get moving. So it was a necessary evil. We miss him a lot, though.
Yeah, and so everything that must be done then digitally, is it now? You guys are communicating that way, sending files back and forth?
Yeah, that's how we kind of did it. And then luckily, Chris had managed his stuff, and then all that really was left was like a few things like the leads and stuff, which he then did at home, sent the files over. We managed that when our hard lockdown kind of stopped and weren't restricted to our movements. We could then go and get the final bass stuff done and tweak those things on the recording. Because that was the other hard part. I mean, my producer literally stayed down the street from me, and we weren't allowed to kind of be in each other's company because our lockdown year was quite severe.
Yeah.
For a while. So and with him having young kids and stuff, it just like life gets in the way.
Yeah.
So that kind of all added to this massive delay with everything, and then him also going, well, that's it. I'm going to Canada. Goodbye. But you haven't finished the album yet. Don't worry, I'll be done next week. And then, oh wait, never mind, guys. I'll remix it when I'm back in Canada. So all of this kind of thing happened. But the other side of that coin is we think because of that, despite the delay, and we appreciate everybody's patience that had been waiting for it, we think we've got a much better product, an album as a result.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like God, the last couple of years have just been the most bizarre time for everybody. So I think nobody's going to hold you with a gun to your head, sort of.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, whether or not we delayed it, another 6 months, I mean, nobody's going to die. So it's okay, and now nicely, it has been good so far. The response to the single has been great. So that at least tells us, that the delay and taking our time to get everything done is just validated. So.
Yeah, there's a real appetite for music now, obviously, on the back of the pandemic. People really appreciate the music coming out. People really appreciate the live shows and the festivals. So it's a great time to be dropping new music.
Very, very jealous of you folk up in the Northern Hemisphere at all the stuff you're going to be able to see now in summer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we're really fortunate that, especially in the UK sort of came back to normality 12 months ago. And I was at Bloodstock last August, and that was the first. It might have been the first festival. Partly, I think they had a download trial maybe 2 weeks before it.
I think they had I read about download doing 10,000 people.
10,000, yeah. And then Bloodstock was like the middle of August, and there was 20,000 people in the field. And you would have thought there was no pandemic at all. It was just crazy, absolutely crazy.
With Devin Townsend.
Yeah,
I hate you right now.
Yeah,
I hate you right now.
Yeah. It was brilliant because like Devin was so dedicated. He came across, I think it was 2 weeks in advance. He didn't have his band. He hired 2 guys from the UK to play with him. Three practice sessions and straight in to do a set. It was phenomenal.
I did. I think obviously the UK loves Devin. So, and of course, like, he's been quite open about the sort of financials of everything and what it means, and the fact that he still, came in early to get the quarantine out the way, and probably cost him a load of money. Couldn't afford to bring all the band just because. I mean, a lot of bands are canceling tours and they're just going, look, it's not economically viable.
Yeah, and even now it seems more challenging than ever.
It is. I mean, I didn't even know what we would do if we were, offered the chance to kind of do that thing. I'd love to have it, but I mean, also I don't even understand fully what the situation is. Let's say UK bands wanting to go tour in Europe. What does the whole political Brexit situation mean for them? What does it mean for merch and taxes and that kind of stuff? That may have a massive effect on bands that are even already situated, up in Europe, and then having to do their tours and things. So the fact that he pulled out all stops and came to kind of do it for the fans speaks volumes of the guy.
Yeah, I think it's really important, more so now than ever, that fans do get out and support bands who are touring, because the challenges that anybody's facing, especially international bands trying to bring it to the UK and vice versa, it has to be applauded that anybody makes the effort.
And it's good therapy. I think everybody needs it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
everybody needs the therapy of getting out and enjoying a live experience and feeling human again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're wearing an Iron Maiden hat. Iron Maiden play here on Monday night coming. So yeah, that'll be the first time we'll have a Maiden back in a few years. So looking forward to that.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, their first concert when they were here in 1995, and that's when Blaze was singing for them. My parents wouldn't let me go to the concert. I had friends going. It's like, nope, you're not going to go do that devil music. But my friends go, I don't care about your friends. this is you go where I tell you. So that was obviously a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But then they were here in 2016, which was one of the greatest live shows I've finally had the pleasure of seeing. Because I'd never seen Maiden live.
Yeah.
Before that. So
I
would
this will be my
like to
first time
experience
as
it
well.
again.
Yeah, I'm popping my maiden cherry on Monday.
Oh,
so, yeah.
prepare your soul. It
Yeah.
is magical.
Yeah, it's great.
Fight your way down to the front if you can.
I'll be shooting. I'm going to be photographing it. Yeah, so I'll be in the pit.
Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, you'll be feeling the sweat from Bruce in the pit. In the
exactly.
Pit.
He'll be spitting on me. I'll be like, get the bloody COVID off me. Yeah.
Oh, what a wonderful experience. So I'm so jealous.
Well, that's it. You got to do these things, got to do these things. And so you guys, obviously, like, you're literally a week or two away from the dropping of the album then. So obviously, with so much time passing and then all the hard work and graft to get it over the finish line, it must be an exciting time for you.
It is. We're just keen to hear what people think, because it's a bit of everything, because it's quite diverse, and because I suppose the time had passed, we're all listening to sort of different things. Chris is listening to a lot of architects, and what else, like the guys listening to like Opeth and Ghost, and so those influences tend to sort of creep in a little bit here and there from everybody's experiences and kind of how life has gone since the last album. So it's still Infanteria. It's still got a bit of thrash in there, but it's got a little bit of something else in it too. So we're just keen to see how people respond to that, because I mean, you can't really produce the same album every time.
Yeah.
So it's I guess you can if you're AC/DC or whatever, because that's what people want to hear, or Maiden. So, but this is we're keen to see where it goes, instead of just being like this energetic nothing but the thrash, where we hope people kind of enjoy the different songwriting styles. And so the response to one or two of the tracks, we're just like very keen to see what people say, if they're going to like it or not.
Yeah, sure.
So far, we led with the thrashiest sort of track off the album, just because we figured, look, people haven't heard from us in a while. Let's go with something that people that they're familiar with, and then kind of ease them into it.
Yeah. And so what have you guys got lined up after the album launch? Have you got a wee mini tour planned or anything?
We hope so. Just getting the logistics together of that is something we still need to kind of discuss and kind of figure out, and kind of get an idea of costs, and also things like this with our traveling with visas and that kind of stuff. Because of course Tim and I don't unfortunately have European passports, so it makes life a little bit more difficult where you want to go somewhere. I need to get Schengen visas and work visas and all kind of stuff. So if we get an opportunity, promoters gives us a call and says, hey, look, there's an opportunity to maybe come over and do a few things, we definitely try and jump at that opportunity. But for now, our sort of primary goal, I think, is just kind of get this album out there, promote it a bit, and then sort of see what happens. If people really want it and like it, and then hopefully some opportunities can come.
Yeah.
Just a bit difficult when you got people on different continents.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. You have to wait for him to finish his school holidays, get stuck into the school holidays, and he's ready to go.
That's the thing, because he's out teaching, and he's going to get his kids ready for the prep exams or whatever it is. So and then us getting together and making the move, because like I said, we all still have day jobs, so we have to kind of balance all of that with, like, I need my groceries paid for.
The whole adulting thing really ruins the rock and roll lifestyle.
It does. I mean, honestly, if I could just hit a decent sized lottery, I'd absolutely go full Bruce Dickinson, get a pilot, phone Chris's brother, have him come and pilot a jet for us, and just take us around the world and play.
Yeah.
Even if we have to play to nobody, just to play.
Living the dream, Well, look, Adrian, thank you very much for your time. It's great talking to you.
Thank
and just
you
a reminder
very much for having me.
My pleasure. Just to remind everybody again, the album drops June 17th, Patriarch by Infanteria, a UK South African, well, really a South African, but we have a blow-in in the UK who's teaching over here somewhere, so he's probably headbanging his way through his school day.
He was born. His dad's born in Manchester. He's a Manchester United fan. Like,
that's okay. I like him. I like him now. That's fine. We'll suffer together next year whenever Ten Hag takes over for him.
Sorry, so. I'm unfortunately a Scouser. So,
oh, are you? Okay, yeah. You're down the pecking order now, son. Down the pecking order. Okay, well, look, once again, thank you very much for your time, Adrian Langeveld. Hopefully I've said it correctly. We'll take a 50%er on that one.
Good enough, man. Thank you so much, Mark.
My pleasure. Look after yourselves and best of luck with the release.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay, man. See you on the other side. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.